Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. Good evening. Tonight, I'd like to continue our discussion on the self, and I would like to compare and contrast Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud's ideologies. The Jungian archetypes represent a journey from the unconscious state to individuation, or a merging of the conscious and the unconscious. First, you have the persona, which is the different masks we wear in social contexts. An example of this would be how you act differently when you're alone versus when you're with your friends or when you're with your family. We always wear masks, and it's pretty natural. The second would be the shadow. It's what we choose to repress, the aspects of ourselves we don't like that much or is socially looked down upon. So we try to blend in and we push those pieces way down. That would be our shadow. And sometimes it's bits of us we're not even fully aware of. The anima or the animus. The anima represents femininity in a man's psyche, and the animus represents masculinity in a woman's psyche. And how society focuses us to suppress these opposing constructs. And lastly, on this path to discovery, is the self. It's the goal. It's the merging of the conscious and the unconscious states to give rise to a complete personality. The self is the whole representing Jungian's individuation. On the other side of that spectrum is Freudian's three layers of personality, essentially, the psyche. And these would be the id, the ego, and the superego. In Latin, they translate into the ego is I, id is it, and the superego is the upper I. The id is our base instincts, essentially. The organizing principle of the id is the pleasure principle. It works by what feels good. It's the more inner child side of us. The tantrums we throw when we don't get our way necessarily. The traits of the id are the engine of desires, impulses, and drives. It's pleasure seeking. It's unresponsive to the demands of reality and social morals. It is selfish and willful. It's where your strong emotions come from. It has short-term thinking, so it drives on instant gratification. It also would be comparable to your inner child or the demon on your shoulder. And it's also the home of the libido. From here, I want to skip to the superego or the upper I. And this is how we want to be perceived. This is the what we should do versus the id being I want. The superego strives on acting in a socially acceptable manner. It's where your guilt, shame, and inadequacy thoughts come from. It's an internalized voice of authority that we normally gain from either parents or society. It has long-term thinking. In contrast to the id, the superego is the inner parent or the angel on your shoulder. And then finally, the ego or the I. This is pretty much the reality principle. It serves the id superego in the external world. Its task is to find balance between the internal drives and the external reality while satisfying the id and superego. This is where your judgment, decision making, conscious thinking, and evaluation comes from. So with both of these concepts, a lot of people will debate one over the other. I'm pretty sure they work in tandem. So while you have an id, ego, and superego, you also are focusing and living through your personas, your shadow, your anima or animus, and yourself. Unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways. Sigmund Freud. Also, I'd like to take this time to thank some of my friends over on X and some of the awesome Halloween and OC artwork they have done for me lately. Thank you.